The Nun by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. Fair, penitent with rosary, and cross and veil, in gloomy cell, what guilty deed was done by thee, to cause thee here, immured to dwell? Come forward, and present thy cause, that we may clearly judge, and know if violated human laws imprison and afflict thee so, or if it be some secret sin that haunts thy contrite soul with fears, and here sequesters thee within the place of fasting, gloom, and tears. Art thou the guiltiest of thy race? Why, thou art human, it is true, which is alone enough for grace to have renewing work to do. But can devotion, warm and deep, thy duty's bonds so closely set, that faith may plow and sow and reap, by trials shunned instead of met? What ray of truth revealed would thus make of a tender opening soul a close, dark blue convolvulus, and give its bloom this inward roll? Dost thou the never fading crown of life and joy intended to win, by here supinely sitting down where others but the race begin? And dost thou think to gain the palm by hiding from thy Saviour's foes, or hope, in Gilead's sacred balm, a cure for self-inflicted woes? I never saw a nun before, and therefore claim indulgence now, if I presume to question more than courtesy might else allow. As one, then, who in darkness pleads for light, I ask to be informed, how, by a string of pegs and beads, a soul is raised, or fed, or warmed. Tell me, thou sober Kabbalist, what is the potent hidden charm hung on that string, or in its twist, contorted for repelling harm? And is thy spirit kept so faint, it cannot mount to God above, but here must substitute a saint, an image for a heavenly love? Has he, who lived and died for us, whose gifts are light and liberty, left in his word the minimus that here confines and fetters thee? Does he assign a living tomb for souls endowed with vital grace, or need surrounding convent gloom to show the radiance of his face? And, pensive nun, now what's the chart that he has drawn and left below, that by it every pious heart may follow on the Lord to know? Far from temptation in retreat did he consume his earthly days, with houseless head and weary feet. What were his works, and where his ways? Oh, get thy spirit's wings unfurled, hide not thy candle, if 'tis lit, but by naught of the world, if thou wouldst shine to lighten it. Come out and show that face demure, and see if smit on either cheek, thy righteous soul would then endure to turn the other and be meek. For, let me tell thee, coy recluse, if we are gold, we must be tried; if stones, we must be hewn for use, or by the builder cast aside. The axe and chisel we must bear, to give us smoothness, shape, and size, are in the world the furnace there, for heaven the gold and silver tries. If we are the salt to salt the earth, ah, then our Saviour to be known must be diffused, for what's the worth of salt and massy, boxed up alone? The touchstone where we must inquire if we have safely hid our life, is found in pitfall flood, and fire, allurement sweet, and bitter strife. Come out, behold the billowy seas, the flowery earth, and shining seas. Say wherefore God created these, and then, fair none, thy beauteous eyes. Was it for thee to turn and slight the gorgeous things he spread to view, to give earth, ocean, air, and light, and freedom for a dismal mew? Oh, if beneath some lawless vow to man in self-delusion made, an heir of heaven is brought to bow, that vow were better broke than paid. What binds thee here, and who shall set his name endorsed a pledge for thee, when Christ has died to pay thy debt, and burst the tomb to make thy free? The world's the great arena, where the fight of faith must well be fought, and each good warrior seen to wear the armor for the victory wrought. Why, dost thou know? But it may be thy foe, thy tempter, who has found this cunning way to corner thee, to keep thee from the battle ground. Come forth, thou timid, hampered one, and doff thou outward odd disguise, that cumbers thee, if thou wouldst run, or fight the fight to win the prize. Come, from the bushel take thy light, and give its radiance room to play. Bind on thy shoes and armor tight, and up into the field away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Trees for the Pilgrim's Wreath by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. Knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope, and hope maketh not ashamed. Romans v. 3-5. Tribulation, if by loss, or by thorny gain, the cross. Thou art not a barren tree, seeds of patience drop from thee. Patience, bitter from thy root, upward, till we reach the fruit. Thou hast golden grains to sow, hence experience full shall grow. Broad experience, rank and dark, thick in leaves, and rough in bark. Through thy dubious shade we grope, till we grasp the bow of hope. Hope, we're not ashamed with thee, showered by drops from Calvary, when thy branches shoot and bloom through a Saviour's broken tomb. Trees, whereof the pilgrim weaves for his crown the mingled leaves. Wreaths of you are rich and bright, earth's the shade, and heaven's the light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Mushroom's Soliloquy by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Heather Oberlander. Oh, what and whence am I, mid damps and dust and darkness into sudden being thrust? What was I yesterday, and what will be, perchance, tomorrow, seen or heard of me? Poor, lone, unfriended, ignorant, forlorn, to bear the new full glory of the morn beneath the garden wall I stand aside, with all before me beauty, show, and pride. Ah, why did nature shoot me up to light, a thing unfit for use, unfit for sight, less like her work than like a piece of art, whirled out and trimmed exact in every part? Unlike the graceful shrub and flexile vine, no fruit, nor branch, nor leaf, nor bud is mine. No hummingbird, nor butterfly, nor bee will come to cheer, caress, or flatter me. No beauteous flower adorns my humble head, no spicy odors on the air I shed. But here I'm stationed in my sober suit, with only top and stem, I've scarce a root. Untaught of my beginning and my end, I know not whence I sprang, or where I tend. Yet I will wait and trust, and ne'er presume to question justice. I, a frail mushroom. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Spirit in the Mountain by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. Mountain, with thy firm old foot, fast beside the sea, what was in thy keeping put, prisoned under thee? Hark, and hear the shuddering ground, feel it rock and quake. Struggling fires, beneath me bound, strive their chains to break. Mountain, with a cloudy vest, girded over thy heart, does it pierce thine aged breast when its lightnings dart? No, beneath me far, the crash of the bolt is felt. Here, the fiery chain and flash but adorn my belt. Mountain, with a snowy crown, stainless on thy brow, wilt thou never cast it down, never, never bow? When the mandate I shall hear from my Maker's throne, I will bow and disappear, hence to be unknown. Mountain, holding proud and high thine old hoary head, what is written on the sky thou so long hast read? Brighter than the stars and sun shining over me, I behold the name of one thou must die to see. Mountain, bold thine eloquence, glowing is thy speech, mighty import flashes thence, what is it to teach? Thoughts of him, before whose breath I shall melt away, while of thee, soul, spirit, death, never shall quench a ray. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Fall of the Statue by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. The Declaration of Independence was received by the people with transports of joy. Public rejoicings took place in various parts of the Union. In New York, the statue of George III was taken down, and the lead, of which it was composed, was converted into musket balls. Goodrich's History of the United States. There stood in New York, when, the times growing warm, all over our fair country had gathered the storm, which warned its coming, so fearful a form, but left us the rainbow of peace, an image of royalty, stately and proud. I'll let an old king, where his votaries bowed, while true friends of liberty marked it and vowed that its honors should speedily cease. And when our brave statesmen the article signed, declaring us free with pure freedom of mind, Columbia's true sons, feeling strongly inclined to learn how the statue was based, assembled forthwith, and, besieging it, found that the king in head, body, and limb was quite sound, and head of good lead in him many a pound, which might be more usefully placed Then, down with the ponderous George the Third, from a mingling of voices together was heard, with shoutings aloud, as they gave out the word, "Down with it! Let it come down!" We'll soon transform his grave highness of lead, and turn him to balls from the feet to the head. And then shall the mouths of our muskets be fed with him of the throne and the crown. So now for the fall, for our sages have met, and their names to a broad declaration have set, that they are resolved from this moment to get of the king independent and free, and to give by their valor a nation her birth, or to empty their veins, a free gift to the earth, in liberty's name to betoken her worth to us in the millions to be. Columbia's wrongs have gone to the skies. 'Tis time that her blood and her spirit should rise above her oppressors, till tyranny flies, and leaves her unfettered to bear the flag of a nation instead of a chain, the palm of her triumph mid weakness and pain, over them that were mighty but struggled in vain to force her their shackles to wear. And no leaden monarch will we have to stand, proclaiming our vassalage here in the land. Of lovely Manhattan will each lend a hand to give him a jerk or a pull, and flat to the ground in a trice as we bring his dignified form it shall merrily ding, to sound all around how we honor the king, and pay our respects to John Bull. This is the season for trying men's souls, the nerves of their arms, and the worth of their pulls. So, we'll have his majesty over the coals, and make him the first that shall run. When, heated to melting, he hides in the mold, we'll hold him there still, till new sharpen and cold. Then, off he shall go, like a tale that is told, in the voice of the thundering gun. The discomposed sovereign with us shall unite, and fly at his friends for our cause in the fight, to scatter his subjects, to purchase our right, the land of oppression to clear. And he to whom, whizzing, his monarchs shall come, in the form of a ball, mid the noise of the drum, the flashes and smoke will have finished the sum of his deeds as a royalist here. Then, flat to the earth was his eminence cast, the dust rose above him, and mounted the blast, while a bevy of Rome's feathered sentinels passed, raised their wings, and huzzied as he fell. But, how the proud royalist felt, when the lead of his late British majesty came at his head, while some dropped before it, and some turned and fled, is more than a Yankee can tell. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Bird's Maternal Care by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. The following is but versified statement of a touching, literal fact that occurred not long since a few rods from my own door. A shadowy tree that grew beside its city owner's door, its branches threw so high and wide that many a bird could sing and hide among the leaves it bore. A robin came and built her nest in that green rustling tree. At evening there she sank to rest, and furled her weary wings, as blessed as little bird could be. Upon her side her drowsy head, beneath her folded wing, she pillowed while the night hours fled. When morning flushed the east with red, she'd wake and mount and sing. 5 pretty eggs of azure hue in that soft nest she laid. So clear and vivid was that blue, like polished balls they shone to view, of purest sapphire made. And many a day she brooded over those treasures till they grew, and what the shells contained before, to something different, something more. Young birds came peeping through. 5 little baby birds were there, in that fond robin's nest. All callow in their mother's care, was now to find their daily feast, and shield them with her breast. Her tiny game, or berries ripe, from some far distant stem, should bring them, then her beak should wipe, and sit upon a twig and pipe a mother's tune to them. At length the owner of the tree, one dismal stormy day, his window from the shade to free, the better in his room to see, some branches lopped away. He dropped the very bough that hung a curtain over the nest. The sun burned through the clouds and flung his fire the helpless brood among, till they were sore oppressed. Their tender mother then was seen to stand on weary feet, where now they missed the leafy green, with one wing raised her babes to screen from sultry noontide heat. And, patient there, she day by day, upon her nest's round edge, stood up to keep the sun away, while shaded thus her nestlings lay, till time their forms could fledge. Then, when the master of the tree beheld what love and care within a mother's bird could be, he wished in vain that he could see the bough still living there. Thus thoughtless we may often pain, or grieve a failing heart, wherein the anguish must remain, while we may wish, but wish in vain, to lay or lull the smart. A good destroys a fearful thing, and so's a good undone. We, serving self, on self may bring a heavier ill, a keener sting, than what we sought to shun. 'Tis little acts of good or ill that make our vast account. No one, though great, does all God's will. Small drops the caves of ocean fill, and sands compose the mount. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Victoria. Song. Little bird with their beautiful eye, looking as if they were cut out of a star. How do I know but it once was on high, beaming through evening, sublime from afar? I cannot say what thy Maker divine, when he composed thee an optic so bright, making the skill of his finger to shine, drew from those high upper regions of light. Little bird, with thy spirit-like wings, fleet as the air, as the rainbow in hues. How can I tell but the ruler of kings formed them by those his blessed ministers use? Were not the fancy-like tints of thy bloom, was not the delicate down of thy breast, caught from the flowers that in paradise bloom, plucked from the couch where the weary ones rest? Little bird with thy musical voice, tuned like a seraph's, deep flowing and clear, was not thy melody touching and choice, taught by some angel who visited here? What, pretty fairy, so soon must thou go? Fleet as a vision, without a reply? Just like all other bright treasures below, charming a moment to change or to fly. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The White Moth by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. Beware, pretty moth, so unsullied and white. Beware of the lamp's dazzling rays. It is not a drop of the sun, but a light that shines to allure little rovers by night. Away, there is death in that blaze. Oh, why didst thou come from thy covert of green, the vine round my window so bright, and pop in to know what was here to be seen, forsaking thy shield, and escaping thy screen, and hazarding life by the flight? The down on thy limbs, in thy bosom so pure, that flame would most fatally singe, and nothing thy beautiful wings can insure, for harm and from pain beyond mending or cure, if caught by the delicate fringe. Return, giddy wanderer, safe to the vine, and breathe in the fresh evening air. Go, look at the stars as they twinkle and shine, and cling to a leaf, or the tendrils that vine. My soft little eavesdropper there. And then by a song I will sing, thou shalt know why thus I have lifted my arm to scare thee away from thy luminous foe, that threw out its beams as a snare and a show, to tempt the unwary to harm. For I through the day have been guided by one, who, greater and wiser than I, has pitied my frailty, and forced me to shun elusive temptations where I might have run the peril of sporting to die. 'Twas kindness from him to whose care I commend myself through the darkness of night, that taught me so quick to come in as a friend between thee and evil, thy life to defend. Pretty moth, so unsullied and white. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Edward and Charles by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. The brothers went out with their father to ride, where they looked for the flowers that, along the wayside, so lately were blooming and fair. But their delicate heads by the frost had been nipped, their stalks by the blast were all twisted and stripped, and nothing but ruin was there. "Oh, how the rude autumn has spoiled the green hills!" exclaimed little Charles, "and has choked the bright rills in leaves that are faded and dead. The few on the trees are fast losing their hold, and leaving the branches so naked and cold, that the beautiful birds have all fled." "I know," replied Edward, "the country has lost a great many charms by the touch of the frost, which used to appear to the eye; but then it has opened the chestnut bur too, the walnut released from the case where it grew, and now is our Thanksgiving nigh." "Oh, what do you think we shall do on that day?" "I guess," answered Charles, "we shall all go away to grandpa's, and there find enough of turkeys, plum puddings, and pies by the dozen, for grandpa and grandma, aunts, uncles, and cousins, and at night we'll all play blind man's buff. Perhaps we'll get grandpa to tell us some stories about the old timers, with their Whigs and their Tories, and what sort of men they could be, when some spread their tables without any cloth, with basins and spoons, and the fuming bean broth, which they took for their coffee and tea. They'd queer kind of sights, I've heard Grandma say, and in their streets for, if not every day, at least it was nothing uncommon to see them pile on the poor back of one horse, a saddle and a pillion, and what was still worse, up-mounted a man and a woman. The lady held on by the driver, and so, away about town at full trot would they go, or perhaps to a great country marriage, to Thanksgiving supper, to husking, or ball, or quilting, for thus did they take nearly all their rides on an animal carriage. I know not what huskings and quiltings may be, but Grandma will tell, and perhaps let us see some things she has long laid away, that stiff damask gown with its sharp pointed waist, the hoop, the craped cushion, and buckles of paste, which they wore in her grandparents' day. She says they had buttons as large as our dollars, to wear on their coats with their square standing collars. And then there's a droll sort of hat, which Mary once fixed me one like out of paper, and she believed 'twas called three-cornered scraper. Perhaps, too, she'll let us see that. Oh, a glorious time we shall have! If they knew at the South what it is, I guess they'd have one too. But I have heard someone say that there they call all the New England folks bumpkins, because we eat puddings and pies made of pumpkins, and have our good Thanksgiving Day. I think, Brother Charles, returned Edward, at least that they might go to church, if they don't like the feast. For to me it is much the best part, to hear the sweet anthems of praise that we give to Him, on whose bounty we constantly live. It is feasting the ear and the heart. For Him, who has brought us another year round, who gives every blessing wherewith we are crowned, the gratitude who can withhold. And now, how I wish I could know all the poor, their Thanksgiving stores had already secure, their fuel and clothes for the cold. I'm glad, said their father, to hear such a wish, but wishes alone can fill nobody's dish, or clothe them, or build them a fire. And now I will give you the money, my sons, which I promised, you know, for your drum and your guns, to spend in the way you desire. The brothers went home, thinking over by the way, for how many comforts this money might pay, and something for clothing or food. At length they resolved, if their mother would spend it for what she thought best, they would get her to send it where she thought it would do the most good. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Music of the Crickets by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. I cannot to the city go, where all in sound and sight declares that nature does not know or do a thing aright. To granite wall and tower and dome my heart could never cling. Its simple strings are tied to home, to where the crickets sing. I'm certain I was never made to run a city race along a human palisade that's ever shifting place. The bustle, fashion, art, and show were each a weary thing. Amid them I should sigh to go and hear the crickets sing. If there I might no longer be myself as now I seem, but lose my own identity and walk as in a dream. Or else with din and crowd oppressed, I'd wish for sparrow's wing, to fly away and be at rest, where free the crickets sing. The firefly, rising from the grass, a winged and living light, I would not give for all the gas that spoils their city sight. Not all the pomp and etiquette of citizen or king shall make my rustic heart forget the song the crickets sing. I find in hall and gallery their figures tame and faint, to my wild bird and brook and tree without a touch of paint. And from the sweetest instrument of pipe or key or string, I turn away and feel content to hear the crickets sing. Oh, who could paint the placid moon that's beaming through the bough of yon high elm, or play the tune that sounds beneath it now? Not all the silver of the mine, nor human power could bring another moon like her to shine, or make a cricket sing. I know that when the crickets trill their plaintive strains by night, they tell us that from vale and hill the summer takes her flight. And were there no renewing power, it would be a mournful thing to think of fading leaf and flower, and hear the crickets sing. But why should change with sadness dim our eye when thought can range through time and space and fly to him who is without a change? For he who meted out the year will give another spring. He rolls at once the shining sphere and makes the cricket sing. And when another autumn strips the summer leaves away, if cold and silent be the lips that breathed and moved to day, the time I've passed with nature's God will cause no spirit sting, though I've adored him from the sod whereon the crickets sing. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Childhood's Dream by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Victoria. Childhood's Dream. Give me back, but my one infant dream, as it passed on the turf by my dear native stream, where I slept from my play, while the wind tossed my hair, till its ringlets unbound clasped the violets there. Or return, fleeting time, the soft moments that flew by the calm sinking sun and the fall of the dew, when refreshing is light and is due to the flower, o'er my young spirit came the blessed dream of that hour. I remember the song of the bird and the breeze, with the perfumes it swept from the bloom of the trees, as my eyes gently closed, but the visions that stole through my fancy's green bowers come no more to my soul. They were sweet but to pass as the odors that fled from the young flowers I crushed while they pillowed my head. And like them, when they flew on the wings of the air, they are gone, and have left not a trace to tell where. They were clear as the sun in his mild setting rays, they were pure as the stars, soon to kindle and blaze. But they are gone, I have lost the dear dream of that sleep, as a bright planet drowned in the vast ether deep. Yet the face of my mother, through tears as she smiled, when she found gently raised, and led home her lost child, I shall see that loved face by time's stream evermore, till I follow her home, where life's dreamings are o'er. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Fruit Tree Blossom by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. My flower, Thou art as sweet to me, thy form as full and fair, as rich a fruit shall follow thee, as if thou hadst denied the bee the pure and precious gift that he wafts joyous through the air. The spices from thy bosom flow as freely round thee now, as if withheld an hour ago. Bestowing, thou canst still bestow. Thou, hence thy gifts thou mayst not know, or giving, tell me how. And future good, we yet shall find, was hidden in thy heart. Its witness shall be left behind, when thou, like all thy tender kind, thy minutes summed, shalt be resigned forever to depart. Thy ruin I would not forestall, yet soon, I know, to thee must come what happens once to all. Thy life will fail, and thou must fall, must fade and perish, past recall, to vanish from the tree. Then, on the bough where thou wast sent, to pass thy fleeting days, at work for which thine hours were lent, in silent, balmy, mild content, a rich and shining monument to thee will nature rise. Now, not in pride, in purpose high, awhile in beauty shine, and speak through man's admiring eye, forbidding every passer by to wish to live, or dare to die, with object less than thine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Plymouth Apple Declined by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. Visiting at the house of a friend in Boston, I was shown an apple which he told me had been sent to him from Plymouth, and was the fruit of a tree that was planted by Peregrine White, the first child born of Pilgrim parents in New England. I praised the apple for its beauty and the venerable associations connected with it. He wished me to keep it, but as he had no other of the tree, I declined the gift. I wanted the apple when offered to me by its generous owner, and thought it not right to take it, because it had grown on a tree that sprang from a seed sown by Peregrine White, and he, who thus proffered it, had none beside it. While diffidence checked the words, let us divide it. Now Peregrine White was the first white, you know, who drew his first breath in New England, the child whose parents were making to bud and to blow, with its earliest blossoms, America's wild. But he with the fruit never questioned me, whether we might partake of the apple together. Though a fabled divinity once had let fall an apple of gold where his favorites thronged, inscribed, of the fair to the fairest of all, it was not to me this whole apple belonged. My friend was no god, and then I but a woman. I thought that to have it were just about human. The whole I declined. Still I did not deny a wish that, unuttered, was strong in my heart, and from it entire, while averting my eye, I own I was secretly coveting part. And had he divided the offering presented, preserving one half, I had come off contented. Had Solomon been there to put in a word, his wisdom had brought the debate to an end, deciding at once, by the edge of his sword, this contest of kindness between friend and friend. Yet he with the apple was quite too short sighted. to see how I might and a half have delighted. I hope that next autumn he'll go where it grew, and if not forbidden the fruit, that he'll reach and pluck a fair apple, then cut it in two, and tell me at once that half is for each, of friendship's best gift, how the worth may be lightened by having it whole, when, if shared, how it were heightened. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Half Apple by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. A year after the foregoing poem was written, a nice little casket was sent to me, at the distance of 35 miles, which, on opening, I found to contain the half of an apple like the one I had seen the previous autumn. The half of an apple, well flavored and fair, which shows by division such soundness of heart. I gradually hold and acknowledge the care and kindness of him who retains the other part. The fruit that would perish, I taste with delight, the seed taking out to lay cautiously by, because it encloses, concealed from my sight, an emblem of that which in us cannot die. Its elements, when 'tis laid low in the earth, if good, will arise in fresh verdure and blooms, as man's deathless soul seeks the world of its birth, when what it once dwelt in lies dark in the tomb. The little memento I'll hide in the ground, for nature, its mother, to tenderly rear, and bright be its blossoms, its fruit fair and sound, when I, in the giver, no more shall be here. For, when I depart, in some good living deed, would fain leave behind, in remembrance of me, at least be it said that I planted a seed, that others might gather the fruit from the tree. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Horticulturist's Table Hymn by Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. From him, who is Lord of the fruits and the flowers, that in paradise grew, ere he lost its possessions, who breathed in the balm and reposed in the bowers of our garden ancestral, we claim our profession. In fruits rich and bright, bless our taste and our sight, as ever gave our Father in Eden delight. Our fount clear as that, which he drank from, here flows, where green grows the myrtle, and blushing the rose. While some sit in clouds but to murmur or grieve, that earth has her wormwood, her pitfalls and brambles, we smile and go forth her rich gifts to receive, where the boughs drop their purple and gold on our rambles, untiring and free. As we work like the bee, we bear off a sweet from each plant, shrub, and tree, where some gather thorns, but to torture the flesh. Ripe clusters we pluck, and our spirits refresh. Yet, not to self only, we draw from the soil the treasures that heaven in its vitals hath hidden, from thus to lock up the fair fruits of our toil, where bliss half possessed, and a sin all forbidden, like morning's first ray, when it spreads into the day. Our hearts must flow out, until self melts away. Our joys, and the bosoms around us when sown, spring up and bloom out, throwing sweets to our own. And this makes the world all a garden to us, where he, who has walled it, his glory is shedding. His smile is its sun, and beholding it thus, we gratefully feast, while his bounty is spreading. Our spirits grow bright, as they bathe in his light, that beams on the board, where in joy we unite. And the sparks which we take to enkindle our mirth are blessings from heaven showering down on the earth. And now that we meet, and the chain is of flowers, which binds us together, may sadness never blight them, till those, who must break from a compact like ours, ascend where the ties of the blest reunite them. May each who is here at the banquet appear, where life fills the wine cup, and love makes it clear. And Gilead's balm in its freshness shall flow on the wounds which the pruning knife gave us below. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Whippoorwill by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Scott Kelly. Thou mournful bird, when shadows fell, at yestereve on hill and dwell, I heard thee of thy sorrows tell. And as the dews distil, again, amid this twilight gray, I hear thee pour thy solemn lay, with only one sad thing to say, still crying, Whippoorwill. Oh, who has grieved thee, gentle bird, that now thy vesper note is heard, and with thy melting, triple word, thus dropping from thy bill? How could they rudely whip at thee, to scare thee from thy native tree, and send thee moaning back to me, repeating, Whippoorwill? And wherefore did they whip thee so? To give thy voice the sound of woe, which comes so plaintively to show that they have used thee ill? Didst thou go through the woods alone, where brambly snares had thickly grown, when thou wast taught thy piteous tone and story, Whippoorwill? There have they made thee all the day in silence hide thyself away, to lose the light, the flash, the play of sun and fount and rill? And didst thou now steal out, afraid of midnight, in the coppice shade, that here thy tender plaint is made, again, sad Whippoorwill? The trembling stars and luna gleam, that fitful in the thicket beam, perhaps would make poor Willie dream his foes were round him still. And in the copse wood, dark and deep, a wavering flower or leaflet sweep might startle thee in troubled sleep to murmur, Whippoorwill. My bird, there's mystery in thy strain, a power I might resist in vain, with mournful joy, pleasing pain, my inmost soul to thrill. 'Tis memory stirs to wet my eye, by waking shades of days gone by, when first a child I heard the cry, so solemn, Whippoorwill. I call thee bird, yet thou mayst be a spirit, for I cannot see. I never could catch a glimpse of thee, and undiscovered still, the vision form that might appear, wert thou to sight revealed as clear, as is thy presence to mine ear, mysterious Whippoorwill. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Autumn Rosebud by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Heather Oberlander. Come out, pretty rosebud, my lone timid one. Come forth from thy green leaves and peep at the sun. For little he does in these dull autumn hours at heightening of beauty or laughing with flowers. His beams on thy tender young cheek as he plays will give it a blush that no other can raise. Thy fine silken petals they'll softly unfold, and fill their pure center with spices and gold. I would not instruct thee in coveting wealth, but beauty, we know, is the offspring of health. And health, the fair daughter of freedom, is bright with feasting on breezes and drinking the light. Then come, pretty bud, from thy covert look out, and see what the glad golden sun is about. His shafts, should they strike thee, will only impart a grace to thy form and a sweet to thy heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To L.A.E. on Her Wedding Day by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. That I will be near on thy bridal day, be with thee before we are 10 hours older, this hasty messenger comes to say, and bringing its witness a pearly folder. And this perhaps, as a pointed sign, by the light upon Hymen's altar burning, may signify to a heart like thine what a leaf to day in thy life is turning. May the lines for thy future reading there, with no sad characters dark or frowning, in every letter be bright and fair, to thee and to him thou to day art crowning. Accept the token, and let it prove, as long as thou hence shalt remain its owner, when thou must be at a far remove from her, memorial of her donor. Thou'lt see engraved on its handle part the form of a pen with its top of feather, a type of the wings that heart and heart may find when absent to fly together. I send thee an opening thornless rose, harmless and soft as the peaceful turtle, with an emerald sprig from a branch that grows on the single stalk of my true green myrtle. I bound them all with a silver thread, but ere thy hand is the cord untwining, the rose will have drooped, or its leaves be shed, while the myrtle still is freshly shining. But I will be near in thy bridal hour, this Wednesday evening at 7:30, and give at the nuptials my holier dower, a prayer for a smile on them from heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Mrs. H.F.L. by Hannah Flagg Gould. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. To think of thee, my Hannah, to sit and think of thee, is to my heart like manna, or balsam from the tree. For first, its tendrils feeding, it gives them strength to cling, and then if pained or bleeding, it soothes the wound or sting. To thine, a fount of feeling, the warmest and the best, 'tis sweet to seem revealing the secrets of my breast. Of half its care and trouble my bosom thus beguiled feels every joy is double when on it thou hast smiled. 'Tis dark and stormy weather, our first October day, but we are here together, though thou art far away. For still I feel thee near me, I see thy soft black eye, I fancy thou canst hear me, and I thy sweet reply. And yet, my friend, my dearest, this moment where art thou? What envied eye is nearest to look upon thee now? Is thine own Hannah present in spirit still with thee, and dost thou find it pleasant to feel alone with me? Then we are never parted, nor distance, place, nor scene, the whole and faithful hearted shall ever come between. And when earth's changeful weather, its joys and sorrows cease, oh, may we dwell together in deathless love and peace. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Music by Hannah Flagg Gould, read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Music, a blessed angel, she was born within the palace of the King of Kings, a favorite near his throne. In that glad child of love and joy he made their spirits one, and her the heir to everlasting life. When his bright hosts would give him highest praise, they send her forward with her dulcet voice, to pour their holy rapture in his ear. When the young earth to being started forth, Music lay sleeping in a bower of heaven. A crystal fountain close beside her gushed with living waters, and the sparkling cup for her pure draught stood on its emerald brink, while o'er her brow a tender halo shone, kissed by the nodding buds, her head reclined upon a flowery pillow. At her ear the soft leaves whispered, on her half closed lips the gentle air strewed spices, wooing them. Dropped o'er its radiant orb, the long fringed lid veiled the deep inspiration of her eye, but on her cheek the rose tint came and went. At the quick pulse that fluttered in her breast and spoke a wakeful spirit, in her sleep, with one fair hand thrown o'er its silent strings, close to her heart she clasped her golden lyre, to slumber with her, while she fondly dreamed of the sweet uses she might make of it to numbers yet untried. When suddenly a shout of joy from all the sons of God rang through his courts, and then the thrilling call, "Wake, sister Music, wake, and hail with us a new created sphere!" She woke, she rose, she moved among the morning stars, and gave the birth song of a world. Our infant globe, with life's first pulse, rolled on its ether bed, robed with the sunlight, mantled by the moon, or tenderly embraced by stellar rays. Death with his pale cold finger had not touched its beauty then. No stain of guilt was here, and so no cloud of sorrow cast a shade, or rained its bitter drops on fruit or flower. As earth on every side shone fair to heaven, not knowing yet whereto she was ordained, Music from her celestial walks looked down, and thought how sweetly she could wake the hills, sing through the silent forests in the vales, beside the silver waters pour her sounds, and multiply her numbers by the rocks. She longed to give it voice, to speak to God, and being told of her blessed ministry, bathed in a flood of glory, till her wings dripped with effulgence, as they spread and poised and passed the pearly gates in earthward flight, made viewless by the circumambient air and scattering voices to its feathered tribes. As down she hastened to the shining sphere, the happy angel reached the beauteous earth. At her electric touch young Nature smiled, and kindled into rapture, then broke forth with thousand songs. The green turf woke, the sea shells hummed along the vocal shore, the busy bee upon his honeyed flower. Osier and reed became Aeolian lyres, trees bore sweet minstrels, while rock, hill, and dell sang to each other in a joyous round. Man, that mysterious instrument of God, when the warm soul of new descended power breathed on his heart strings, lifted up his voice, chanting Jehovah. Since that blest hour, while still her home is heaven, Music has ne'er this darkened world forsaken. She delights, though man may lose, to keep the paths of peace, to soothe, to cheer, to light and warm his heart, and lends her wings to waft it to the skies. She throws a lustre o'er devotion's face, drinks off the tear from sorrow's languid eye, tames wild despair, brings hope a brighter bloom, lulls hate to rest, love's ruffled bosom smooths, pours honey into many a bitter cup, and often gives the black and heavy hour a downy breast and pinions tipped with light. She steals all balmy through the prisoner's grates, making that sad one half forget their use. With holy spell she binds the exile's heart, and pours her oil upon its hidden wounds. Kings are her lovers, cottagers her loves. The hero and the pilgrim walk with her. Her voice is sweet by cradled infancy, and from the pillow of the dying saint. When a glad spirit borrows her light wings to practise for the skies ere it unfolds its own, and breaks its tenure to the clay. True, by man's wanderings for his tempter's lure, music is often drawn to scenes unmeet for purity like hers, and made to bear unhallowed burdens, or to join in rites to turpitude in fellest places held. Yet, like the sun, whose beaming vesture, trailed o'er all things staining, still defies a stain, and is at night withdrawn and girded up, warm and untarnished for the morning skies, she comes unsullied from her baser walks, sighs at the darkness, guilt, and woe of earth, breathes Zion's air, and, warmed with a heavenly fire, mounts to her glorious home. 'Twas she who bore the first grand offering of the free on high, when to the shore through Egypt's solemn sea the franchised Hebrews passed with feet dry shod, and paeans gave to their deliverer there. She cheered the wanderers on, and when they crossed over old Jordan to the strong armed foe, still she was with them, and her single breath laid the proud Painim's city walls in dust. In native light she walked Judea's hills, and sipped the dew of Hermon from its flower before the Sun of Righteousness arose. The prophet chose her to unseal his lips, ere God spake through them, and the prophetess to lift the heart's pure gift from hers to heaven. When Israel's king was troubled, her soft hand, put close but gently to his gloomy breast, reached the dark spirit there and laid it still, bound by the cords a shepherd minstrel swept. And since her countless thousands she has brought to heaven's mild kingdom happy captives led by those sweet glowing strings of David's lyre. But oh, her richest, dearest notes to man, in strains aerial over Bethlehem poured, when he, whose brightness is the light of heaven, to earth descending for a mortal's form, laid by his glory, save one radiant mark, that moved through space and o'er the infant hung. He summoned music to attend him there, announcing peace below. He called her, too, to sweeten that sad supper, and to twine her mantle round him and his few grieved friends, to join their mournful spirits with the hymn. Ere to the Mount of Olives he went out, so sorrowful. And now his blessed word, a sacred pledge, is left to dying man. Then, at his second coming in his power, music shall still be with him, and her voice sound through the tombs and wake the dead to life. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of The Mother's Dream and Other Poems by Hannah Flagg Gould.